We are looking at The Anatomy of Wit by John Lilly. The full title of the text is Euphues, The Anatomy of Wit. Euphues, The Anatomy of Wit. By John Lilly. Underline it because it's the title of the text. It was published in 1579 and will study as an example of Elizabethan prose. We'll study as an example of Elizabethan prose. And in studying this work, we have to note its major stylistic principle. In studying this work, we have to note its major stylistic principle, which emanates from the work itself. This principle is called euphuism. And it was thrown up by the novel The Anatomy of Wit, given the way the writer writes. So first of all, we'll look at what euphuism is all about. First of all, consider what euphuism is all about. So euphuism is defined by Richard Nordquist Euphuism is defined by Richard Nordquist as, quote, an elaborately patterned prose style. An elaborately patterned prose style. Characterized in particular by the extensive use of similes, metaphors, parallelism, alliteration, and antithesis. Characterized in particular by the extensive use of similes, metaphors, parallelism, alliteration, and antithesis. An elaborately patterned prose style, characterized in particular by the extensive use of similes, metaphors, parallelism, alliteration, and antithesis. Okay? Simile is a form of comparison that makes use of as and like. Like, he's tall like a palm tree. As tall as a palm tree. Metaphor is a form of comparison. It's a direct comparison that uses no, like, or as. Peter was a lion in the fight. Peter was a lion in the fight. Peter was a lion during the fight. That's metaphor. Then you have parallelism, defined as similarity in the structure, of, say, words, phrases, and clauses in an expression. Parallelism is defined by similarity in the structure of words, phrases, clauses in an expression. Another name for parallelism is parallel structures. And by parallel structure, we mean expressions that stand in the same grammatical category. Categories that are of the same standing. Expressions that stand in the same grammatical category and are sustained if repeated throughout the sentence. And are sustained if repeated throughout the sentence. Meaning that you will run into grammatical problems if you do not sustain the structure, if they are repeated. Take, for instance, if you say, I like reading, writing, and researching. I love reading, writing, and researching. So there is parallelism in that expression because the parallel structures are well maintained. So you have the parallel structures in the expression are reading, writing, researching. They are all in present participle. They are all in present participle. I love writing, reading, and researching. So in terms of parallelism, the structure is fine. It's okay. The sentence is grammatical. Then supposing someone comes along, right, and says, I love reading, writing, and to research. All right, and these people usually come in some of these places, come and say these things. I love writing. I love what? Reading, writing, and to research. Okay? That sentence lacks parallel structure, lacks parallelism. That's what we mean. So it's not only in present participle, it can also be found in other. For instance, if you're using to infinitive, you need to maintain that. You don't mix to infinitive with present participle, and so on and so forth. So that's what we mean. Okay? So, parallelism is also called parallel structure. It can be called paired construction. Can be called what? Paired construction. Paired construction. Paired construction. It can also be called paired construction. It can also be called isocolon. 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 Always remember that you need language to enjoy literature. So we have parallelism in this expression. We have parallelism in this expression. Buy a bucket of chicken and have a bar of fun. Buy a bucket of chicken and have a bar of fun. Buy a bucket of chicken and have a barrel of fun. Buy a bucket of chicken and have a barrel of fun. Right? Buy a bucket of chicken and have a barrel of fun. So there's parallelism in that expression because when you take out this coordinator, you see that this expression and this expression have the same grammatical category, right? Have the same grammatical category. They are all imperatives. You notice that they are imperatives. You know what imperatives are? They are imperatives, and they are clauses. Okay? They have the same structure. They even have alliteration in bucket and barrel. And you could see bucket of chicken, barrel of fun. So you see that you can see that parallelism makes the sentence poetic, gives the sentence a poetic structure. So to deploy it in writing prose makes the prose to have standards, to have a poetic sense. An expression that is euphuistic will have the following principles. An expression that is euphuistic will have the following principles. An expression that is euphuistic will have the following principles. One, it will have phrases of equal length appearing in succession. It will have phrases of equal length appearing in succession. you have phrases of equal length appearing in succession. You have phrases of equal length appearing in succession. 2, there will be the balance of key verbal elements in the successive sentences. You have the balance of key verbal elements. What is done to this side is also done to this side. What is done to this part of the sentence is also done to that part. Balancing. There will be the balance of key verbal elements in successive sentences. 3, the correspondence of sounds, and you have the correspondence of sounds and syllables. There will be a correspondence of sounds and syllables, especially between words that are already balanced against one another. There will be a correspondence of sounds and syllables, especially between words that are already balanced against each other. The term euphuism has a Greek origin. The term euphuism has a Greek origin and means to grow, to grow. Or to bring forth, or to bring forth, or to bring forth, or to bring forth. Forth. And it is derived from the name of the hero in John Lilly's The Anatomy of Wit. It is derived from the name of the hero of John Lilly's The Anatomy of Wit. Because the full title of the text is Euphues, The Anatomy of Wit, published in 1579. In Greek, the term euphues also means graceful or witty. In Greek, the term euphues also means graceful or witty. Graceful or witty. So we'll take an excerpt from the prose. To exemplify what we've said. And then we move on to the story. So please write. I will be slow in my reading as usual, so I can write everything down. The freshest colors soonest fade, comma. The freshest colors soonest fade, comma. The freshest colors soonest fade, comma. Fade is spelled F-A-D-E. The thinnest razor soonest turneth age. Okay, maybe someone should wipe the ball. The freshest colors soonest fade. The thinnest razor soonest turneth age. The finest cloth is soonest eaten with moths, and the cambric sooner staineth than the coarse canvas, which appeared well in this Euphues, whose wit, being like wax, apt to receive any impression, and bearing the head in his own hand, either to use the rein or the spur, disdaining counsel, leaving his country, loathing his old acquaintance, thought either by himself to obtain some conquest, or by shame to abide some conflict, who preferring fancy before friends, and his present humor before honor to come, led reason in water, being too salt for his taste, and followed unbridled affection, most pleasant for his tooth. It's actually a long quote. Probably maybe I'll just write the ones that are not so lengthy. And we have another excerpt that says, "It is virtue, yea, virtue, gentlemen, that maketh gentlemen, that maketh the poor rich, the best born noble, the subject is sovereign, the deformed beautiful, the sick whole, the weak strong, the most miserable most happy." There are two principal and peculiar gifts in the nature of man: knowledge and reason. The one commanded, and the other obeyed. These things neither the whirling wheel of fortune can change, neither the deceitful cavilings of worldlings separate, neither sickness abate, neither age abolish. Okay, let's start with the first one. You have to write. You'll not be able to write everything, but if there's any word that looks confusing, I'll write it on the board. So the freshest colors soonest fade, comma. The thinnest razor soonest turneth his age. The thinnest razor soonest turneth his age. The thinnest razor, R-A-Z-O-R, soonest turneth his age, comma. The finest cloth, C-L-O-T-H, is soonest eaten with moths. The finest cloth is soonest eaten with moths. Moth is M-O-T-H-S, comma. The freshest colors soonest fade. The thinnest razor soonest turneth its age. The finest cloth is soonest eaten with moths. And the cambric sooner, sooner stained than the coarse canvas. Stained than the coarse canvas. Coarse canvas. The freshest color soonest fade. The thinnest razor soonest turneth its age. the finest cloth is soonest eaten with moths, and the cambric sooner stained than the coarse canvas, which appeared well in this Euphus. Which appeared well in this Euphus. Which appeared well in this Euphus, whose wit, W-I-T, whose wit, being like wax, whose wit, being like wax, whose wit, being like wax, wax is W-A-X. Apt to receive any impression, apt to receive any impression, apt is A-P-T, apt to receive any impression, and bearing the head in his own hand, and bearing the head, B-E-A-R-I-N-G, and bearing the head in his own hand, and bearing the head in his own hand, either to use the rein or the spur. Rein is spelled R-E-I-N. Either to use the rein or the spur. Spur is spelled S-P-U-R. Either to use the rein or the spur, disdaining counsel as advice, leaving his country, loathing his old acquaintance, loathing, L-O-A-T-H-I-N-G, that's hating his old acquaintance, loathing his old acquaintance, thought either by wit to obtain some conquest, thought either by wit, W-I-T, to obtain some conquest, thought either by wit to obtain some conquest, or by shame to abide some conflict, semicolon. Please take note of the pauses. By pauses, I mean the punctuation marks. Thought either by wit to obtain some conquest, or by shame to abide some conflict, semicolon. Who, preferring fancy before friends, preferring fancy before friends, and his present humor before honor to come, who, preferring fancy before friends, and his present humor before honor to come, who, preferring fancy before friends, and his present humor before honor to come, led reason in water, being too salt for his taste, T-A-S-T-E, being too salt for his taste, T-A-S-T-E, test, being too salt, salt is S-A-L-T, being too salt for his taste, and followed unbridled affection, and followed unbridled affection. Unbridled affection is spelled unbridled, U-N-B-R-I-D-D-L-E-D, unbridled, unrestrained affection, most pleasant for his tooth, most pleasant for his tooth, most pleasant for his tooth. Most pleasant for his tooth, T-O-O-T-H, tooth. All right, so I'm going to take that again. The freshest colors soonest fade, the thinnest razor soonest tanneth age, the finest cloth is soonest eaten with moths, and the cambric sooner stained than the coarse canvas, which appeared well in this Euphues, whose wit, being like wax, apt to receive any impression, and bearing the head in his own hand, either to use the rein or the spur, disdaining counsel, leaving his country, loathing his old acquaintance, thought either by wit to obtain some conquest, or by shame to abide some conflict, who, preferring fancy before friends, and his present humour before honour to come, led reason in water, being too salt for his taste, and followed unbridled affection, most pleasant for his tooth. So everybody, one go. The freshest colours soonest fade, the thinnest razor soonest turneth its edge, the finest cloth is soonest eaten with moth, and the cambric sooner stained than the coarse canvas, which appeared well in this Euphues, whose wit, being like wax, apt to receive any impression, and bearing the head in his own hand, either to use the rein or the spur, disdaining counsel, leaving his country, loathing his old acquaintance, thought either by wit to obtain some conquest, or by shame to abide some conflict, who, preferring fancy before friends, and his present humour before honour to come, led reason in water, being too sore for his taste, and followed unbridled affection, most pleasant for his tooth. So that expression is taken from the novel, from the prose, and it has all the features, all the characteristics of Euphuism, as all the Euphuistic principles that you can ever think of. For instance, the sentences are in parallel structures. The first two expressions are of the same category. The freshest color soonest fade, the thinnest razor soonest turneth its edge. They have the same category. So there's parallel structures in them. Followed by the third one, the same thing, and even the fourth one, the same thing. We have simile in the expression being like wax. Okay? Being like wax is simile in the expression. So the sentence for me is what sums up, is a summary of the entire prose work, because it talks about what happens to one of the most dominant Euphuistic principles in this extract is alliteration. And I'm asking if you can identify alliteration in the excerpt. So can you give us an example? Alliteration, people. You have preferring fancy before friends. There's alliteration there. In the repetition of the first sound in fancy and friends. Okay, We have an extract that's a rhetorical question. Okay, let us identify antithesis in the first extract. Antithesis. Well, we have just explained what antithesis is. So can you identify one? You can find an expression, though thought either by wit to obtain some conquest or by shame to abide some conflict. We have antithesis there. And even the expression preferring fancy before friends and its present humor before honor to come is antithetical in nature. Okay. We have a rhetorical question in another excerpt. I want you to take it down. Is it not far better to abhor sins by the remembrance of others' faults than by repentance of thy own follies? Is it not far better to abhor sins by the remembrance of others' faults than by the repentance of thine own follies? That's a rhetorical question. Is it not far better to abhor sins? Abhor, A-B-H-O-R. Abhor sins by the remembrance of others' faults, F-A-U-L-T-S, than by repentance of thine own follies? That's alliteration. All right, we'll take the last excerpt. I said, is it not far better to abhor sin by the remembrance of others' faults than by repentance of thy own follies? That is, you use what happened to others to learn a lesson than use yourself when the thing happens to you. All right. Let's take the final excerpt. Can any treasure in this transitory pilgrimage be of more value than a friend? Can any treasure in this transitory pilgrimage be of more value than a friend? Can any treasure in this transitory pilgrimage be of more value than a friend? Can any treasure in this transitory pilgrimage be of more value than a friend? Question mark ends that expression. In whose bosom thou mayest sleep without fear. In whose bosom thou mayest sleep without fear, comma. In whose bosom thou mayest sleep without fear, comma. Whom thou mayest make partner of all thy secrets without suspicion of fraud. Whom thou mayest make partner of all thy secrets without suspicion of fraud, comma. I said, can any treasure in this transitory pilgrimage be of more value than a friend? in whose bosom thou mayest sleep without fear, whom thou mayest make partner of all thy secrets, without suspicion of fraud, and partner of all thy misfortune, without mistrust of fleeting, and partner of all thy misfortune, without mistrust of fleeting. Fleeting is spelled FLEETING. Full stop. Full stop when you get to fleeting. And partner of all thy misfortune, without mistrust of fleeting. Full stop. Who will account thy bell his bane? Who will account thy bell his bane? Bell is spelled B-A-L-E. Who will account all thy bell his bane? Bane is spelled B-A-N-E. Who will account all thy bell his bane? Thy mishap is misery. Thy mishap is misery. M-I-S-H-A-P. Mishap is misery. Misery. M-I-S-E-R-Y. The pricking of thy finger, the piercing of his heart. The pricking of thy finger, the piercing of his heart. Full stop. Can any treasure in this transitory pilgrimage be of more value than a friend, in whose bosom thou mayest sleep without fear, whom thou mayest make partner of all thy secrets without suspicion of fraud, and partner of all thy misfortune without mistrust of fleeting? Who will account thy bell is bane? Thy mishap is misery, the pricking of thy finger, the piercing of his heart. So in the first expression in that excerpt, we have rhetorical question. Can any treasure in this transitory pilgrimage be of more value than a friend? So the part is about the value of friendship. This transitory pilgrimage refers to the world that we are passing through. Okay? Because this world is not our home. It is like a pilgrimage. We are going somewhere. Alright? So it's talking about in whose bosom thou mayest sleep without fear, whom thou mayest make partner of all thy secret without suspicion of fraud. These are all what a friend should be. And partner of all thy misfortune without mistrust of fleeting. Who will account thy bell is bane, thy mishap is misery, the pricking of thy finger, the piercing of his heart. Okay? So let us move on to the story. First, we look at the characters in this story. Characters in Euphues. The characters in Euphues. So the characters in the story. We have Euphues, a young gentleman of Athens. Euphues, a young gentleman of Athens. We have Philotas, a young gentleman of Naples, don't worry. Then we have Eubulus, an old gentleman of Naples. Then you have Lucilla. Then you have Don Ferrado. Don Ferrado is an old gentleman of Naples. Sorry, Don Ferrado is one of the chief governors of Naples. Don Ferrado. One of the chief governors of Naples. Then we have Lucilla, daughter of Don Ferrado. Lucilla, daughter of Don Ferrado. Lucilla is daughter of Don Ferrado. Then we have Livia. Livia is a lady of Naples in the house of Don Ferrado. She accompanies Lucilla. Livia, a lady in Naples. In the house of Don Ferrado. The setting of the novel is Naples as well as Athens. The temporal setting is not specified. But we'll take it to be Renaissance Italy. In the novel, Euphues is described as a gentleman of great patrimony and beauty. By beauty, we mean handsomeness. Euphues is described as a gentleman of great patrimony and beauty. So remember that even though this work refers to Athens and Naples, they can also talk. They are used to talk about England. The setting can still refer to England. Euphrates is described as having more wit than wealth and more wealth than wisdom. Euphrates is described as having more wit than wealth, wit, W-I-T, more wit than wealth, and more wealth than wisdom. So the story is set in Athens. Euphrates decides to leave Athens and to travel to Naples. Athens is where he comes from. When he comes into money, patrimony, he comes into wealth, he decides to travel to Naples. Now, in the prose work, Naples is described as a place of more pleasure than profit, and yet of more profit than piety. A place of more pleasure than profit, and yet of more profit than piety. So people go there to seek pleasure, and in Naples, people don't really have regard for the sacred, for religious sacred things, since they are mostly after pleasure. This means that Naples is a corrupt place. Naples is a corrupt place, not very good for a young person like Euphrates. But Euphrates wants to go there. Everything in Naples was in such a way that it could lure the young person's mind to act foolishly. But Euphrates decides that this is the place that he wants to go to. Naples is also depicted as a place that lacks humanity in it. It is full of cruelty and selfishness. People only look after themselves. People in Naples mostly look after themselves. In Naples, people are selfish. In Naples, Euphrates has all manners of friends. He has all manners of friends. But we are told that these friends are only after his money. Do you understand? They are mostly after his money. So he has money. He has come into the city with patrimony. So the friends are predatory in nature. The friends are predatory in nature. They are there to suck his money and not necessarily there to be good to him. We see Euphus living in Naples. At this time, he has money and lives in a mansion house. Lives in a mansion house. Euphus lives in a mansion house. So far, Euphus is wise enough to avoid being destroyed by these friends. Euphus is wise enough to avoid being destroyed by these friends. We are told that he welcomed all but trusted none. He welcomed all but trusted none. He was merry but yet so weary. You can see the play with sound. He was merry but yet so weary that neither flattery could take advantage to entrap him. He did not allow the fancy words of his friends to trap him. He was careful with them. He welcomed all, but trusted none. He was merry, but yet so weary that neither flattery could take advantage to entrap him. So in this story, we are told that one day Euphus meets an old man by name Eubulus, who advises him against the dangers of the city. Telling him to be careful of his friends, but Euphus does not take this old man's advice. He thinks that the man does not want him to enjoy himself. After all, he is old and cannot enjoy himself too. So, Euphus says that he enjoys his friend's company and disregards the advice of Eubulus. In fact, he even insults the old man for advising him. Then after he leaves Eubulus to go and meet his friends. And this is what Eubulus says after Euphius had left. Saying thou wilt not buy counsel at the first at the hand good cheap, thou shalt buy repentance at the second hand at such an unreasonable rate that thou wilt curse thy hard pennyworth and bind thy hard heart. That is that Euphius will regret not listening to his counsel. Eubulus goes to his house in sadness over Euphius' behavior. Euphius is by now 2 months old in Naples. Euphius is by now 2 months old in Naples. He has a very good friend by name Philotus. He has a very good friend by name Philotus. In fact, one of the important themes in this prose work is friendship, the theme of friendship. We can say in that quote that we made to exemplify euphuistic principles. We can also see it in this excerpt. A friend is in prosperity a pleasure, a solace in adversity, in grief a comfort, in joy a merry companion. That's a quote on friendship. A friend is in prosperity a pleasure, a solace in adversity, in grief a comfort, in joy a merry companion. That means a friend is somebody who stays with you all the time, whether in the good times or in the bad times. So his friend is Philotus. He is city born and city bred. Philotus is city born and city bred, born in the city and raised in the city. His father is late. His father is late. Philotus' father is late. Now, Philotus has an association with Don Ferrado, who is one of his late father's friends. Philotus has an association with Don Ferrado, who is his father's friend, his late father's friend. Don Ferrado is the mayor of Brackley. The mayor of Brackley. Brackley. Mayor of Brackley. The mayor of Brackley. The mayor of Brackley. His daughter is Lucilla. His daughter is Lucilla. She is his only child. Lucilla is Don Ferado's only child. And she's the heir of Don Ferrado. She will inherit his property when he dies. When he dies, Lucilla is to inherit Don Ferrado's property. And not only that, so she's not only rich, Lucilla is the most beautiful lady in Naples. The most beautiful lady in Naples. So she is a great match. She is a great match. Philotus is in love with Lucilla. Excuse me. Philotus is in love with Lucilla. And would have married her if Euphues did not come into the scene. Philotus is in love with Lucilla and would have married her if Euphues did not come in and change the game. Not come into the scene. It happened that Don Ferrado has traveled to Venice. It happened that Don Ferrado has traveled to Venice, the city of Venice, and has left the daughter alone in the house. Has left the daughter alone in the house. She then invites Philotus to the house for dinner. But Philotus, instead of going alone, decides to take his friend, Euphues, with him. She invites Philotus to the house for dinner. But Philotus, instead of going alone, decides to take his very good friend, Euphues, along. Initially, Lucilla gives Euphues a cold shoulder, a cold welcome. So Euphues has to comfort himself by talking with Livia, Lucilla's friend. This happens until Philotus pleads with Lucilla to at least welcome Euphues for his own sake. He calls Euphues his shadow. They're so good friends that he calls him his shadow. At this point, Lucilla is coy or reserved. At this point, Lucilla is coy or reserved in her response. But then they begin to discuss. She begins to discuss with Euphues. Euphues praises her beauty. Euphues is taken by Lucilia's beauty. Euphues is taken by Lucilia's beauty. And we are told in the novel that it is her beauty that he has for dinner, and not necessarily the food that is served. So this is love at first sight for Euphues. It is love at first sight for Euphues. This is seen in this expression. Here, Euphues at first sight was so kindled with desire that almost he was like to burn to coal. So at the end of the dinner, they go into discussion on love and learning, as was the tradition at the time. After dinner, we have a discussion and choose a topic to discuss on. Could be an educational topic or love. Now, Lucilla gives Philotas the opportunity to lead the discussion. Here again, he makes another mistake and he passes the responsibility to Euphues. And of course, Euphues is going to use it to shine. So instead of leading the discussion as ordered by Lucilla, he hands it over to his friend. So friend, my friend, today you take the discussion, talk about love. So Euphues accepts the responsibility. Euphues accepts the responsibility. And uses that opportunity to impress Lucilla with his knowledge on love issues. This is the opportunity to impress Lucilla with his knowledge on the issues on love, on its treatise on love. He talks about appearance versus reality. He talks about beauty and character. His speech is full of wisdom. His speech is full of wisdom. Specifically, he counsels against coyness, that ladies should not be shy. Says that ladies keep secrets a lot. Talks about the dialectic between beauty and character. Okay? It actually is the character that makes beauty possible. Because without character, there's no beauty. And it talks about how character usually destroys beauty, or the lack of it. Lack of character usually destroys beauty. So at the end of his speech, he asked Lucilla to respond to his presentation. Because one of the issues he raises in the speech is also the fickleness of the female gender in love affairs. the inconstancy of the woman's love. So Lucilla responds that women are to be one with every wind, which foreshadows what will happen to her, because she will go on to love 3 men in the space of this novel. After this response, Euphues continues to speak, and then he ends his speech and leaves the party with Philotas. At the end of the speech, he leaves the party with Philotas. At the end of the speech, he leaves the party with Philotas. She has said that women are to be one with every wind. And I said that is foreshadows her life in the novel, and speaks to the fickleness of the female gender. So the party soon ends, and Philotas leaves with his friend Euphues. After this, Lucilla is deeply in love with Euphues. Lucilla is now deeply in love with Euphues. She's no more in love with Philotas. Alone in her room, Lucilla says, "Oh, my Euphues, little dost thou know the sudden sorrow that I sustain for thy sweet sake, whose wit hath bewitched me." That means she's taken by Euphues' intelligence, whose rare qualities have deprived me of my own quality, whose courteous behavior without curiosity, whose comely feature without fault, whose foul speech that fraud had robbed me in this misfortune. That's the misfortune of falling in love with the friend of his former love. So her mind is in turmoil. And he asked himself, "And canst thou, Lucilla, be so light of love in forsaking Philotas to fly to Euphues? Canst thou prefer a stranger before thy countryman, a starter before thy companion?" She's trying to ask herself why she should quickly love Euphues, who is a friend of his love. So this reinforces the idea that the idea of the woman as the fickle sex. So she now comforts herself. She now comforts herself by saying that she has to love Euphues because Euphues excels Philotas. In wit, Philotas excels Euphues in properties, but Euphues excels Philotas in wit, in intelligence. So she finally says that her leaving Philatus to love Euphus proves what Euphus has said in his speech, that the woman's love is inconstant. On the other hand, Euphus, when he's alone with his thoughts, acknowledges his love for Lucilla. Euphus, when alone with his thoughts, acknowledges his love for Lucilla. He cannot confide this particular information in his friend. It would be dangerous to do so. He cannot confide in Philotus that he is in love with Lucilla. He is unable to eat. He's unable to do anything because of his love for Lucilla. And his friend will ask him, what is the matter? And not be able to say. There's a moral question that Euphus has to answer by taking his friend's lover or loving his friend's lover. And like Lucilla, he has to find a reason. And his reason is that if Philotus had loved Lucilla well, he would not have allowed Euphus to see her to start with, because you must protect what you love. So because he did not love her well, that's why he took him to go and see her. So lovers must do everything humanly possible to guard and protect their love. That's the idea. So at the end of the day, Euphus has to lie to Philotus that he's in love with Livia. He projects all his feelings for Lucilla to Livia. But within himself, he knows that he's in love with Lucilla. He tells Philotus that he needs a pretext to visit Don Ferrado's house again. So Philotus is willing to assist him in his scheme without knowing that the scheme is against himself. So he opts to take him to Don Ferrado's house. But you know that Lucilla is not beautiful compared to, Livia is not beautiful compared to Lucilla. But she has intelligence. She has more intelligence than beauty. She has more wit than beauty. As Livia. Whereas Lucilla has more beauty than wit. Intelligence. How did you have the two in one person? Beauty and intelligence. Either beauty without intelligence or intelligence without beauty. Alright? But it's rare to have the two. Okay? In one. Right? Good. And for the guys, it's also difficult to have intelligence and wealth, or sense, or Either you have sense and you don't have wealth, or you have wealth and you don't have sense. Intelligence without wealth, or wealth without intelligence. So it's rare if it occurs in one person too. All right. So the dialectic between brain and beauty is sustained in this poem, or in this prose work. The dialectics, the conflict between brain and beauty, can it be found in one person? Is hardly so, right? Okay. Both Livia and Lucilla have more honesty than honor, but then they have more honor than any other ladies in Naples. So Philotas proposes to detain Don Ferrado with a long gist, while Euphues has access to the house alone. Philotas proposes to detain Don Ferrado with a long gist, a long conversation, while Euphues has access to the house so that he can talk to Livia without knowing that he wants to talk to Lucilla. All right? So the novelist writes here, "Here you may see, gentlemen, the falsehood in fellowship, the fraud in friendship, the penitent sheet with the leaden dagger, the fair words that make fools gain." So the ladies are playing cards when Euphues and Philotas arrived on Ferrado's house. It is obvious that two of Euphues and Lucilla, it is obvious that Euphues and Lucilla are in love with each other. And of course, if Philotas has observed very well, he would have known. But Philotas is not observant, so you don't have noticed. So both began to act as if they want to continue with the last discussion during the dinner. While they're having that love discussion, Ferrado enters the house and leads Philotas away after exchange of pleasantries. It is obvious that he is in a hurry, as Don Ferrado is in a hurry. While leaving the house, he asked Lucilla to take care of the house and Euphues to stand for his friend Philotas in caring for Lucilla. Okay, you can see the irony. Don Ferrado is taking Philotas away to have a discussion. And then he says, "Lucilla, take care of the house, and you, Euphues, stand in for your friend and take care of Lucilla while your friend has a discussion with me." Okay? So the reason for this urgent business is for Philotas to redeem a land that was mortgaged in his father's lifetime so that Ferrado can use it in return for Lucilla's hand in marriage. The reason for this urgent business is for Philotas to redeem a land that was mortgaged in his father's lifetime so that Ferrado can use it in return for Lucilla's hand in marriage. So when Philotas and Euphues have left, Lucilla and Euphues are left alone. When Philotas and Don Ferrado have left, Lucilla and Euphues are left alone in the house. And he uses this opportunity to tell her of his love in a long discourse. At first, Lucilla pretends that she's unhappy with Euphues for professing love to her. But inwardly, she is happy that he has done so. So at length, Lucilla professes love to Euphues as well. She does not even care about Philotas' wealth again. Then Livia enters and they sit down for dinner. Euphus soon leaves, promising to return the next day. Don Ferrado returns soon, having agreed for Philotas to get married to Lucilla. Too late. Of course, Lucilla's mother is now late. Don Ferrado informs his daughter of the impending marriage with Philotas. Lucilla is to inherit her father's possession. At this time, marriage was based on status and material substance. At this time, marriage was based on status and material substance. This is why Don Ferrado allows Philotas to marry Lucilla, because Philotas has money and has status. So when Don Ferrado tells the daughter that she's to marry Euphus, Lucilla says that Philotas has taken being married to her for granted and has not wooed her properly. So she rejects marrying Philotas. She says, I here on my knees forswear Philotas for my husband, although I accept him for my friend. So she friend-zones him. She friend-zones Philotas at that point. She decides that she wants to marry for love and not for money. She decides that she wants to marry for love and not for money. Don Ferrado is angry, but he controls his anger and subtly asks his daughter to be and subtly asks his daughter who the man she wants to marry is. Philotas is present and is angry too. But Don Ferrado says that Philotas should be silent so that he can tactfully and craftily ask her to get the information from her. So he coaxingly requests her to name the person that she wants to marry. Lucilla knows the trap his father has set for her, but she nonetheless names Euphus as the object of her love. She says, it is Euphus that lately arrived here at Naples, that hath battered the bulwark of my breast, and shall shortly enter as conqueror into my bosom. Don Ferrado interrupts her, stating tactfully again that she has a right of choice, even though she does not have his goodwill in her choice. Philotas agrees with Don Ferrado on Lucilla's right of choice and decides to avoid her by cutting all contact with her. It is, however, obvious that he is deeply hurt by what Euphus has done. He leaves abruptly in anger. In his apartment, Philotas is angry that he allowed himself to be deceived by Euphus. He blames Lucilla, whose beauty could have seduced Euphus. He also accuses her of inconstancy in love. He is confused on who to blame and tries to use cause and effect and logic. Then he decides to write a letter to Euphus, a very long letter. He says that he has shown him for his friends. Although he told Euphus, I have shrined thee in my heart for a trusty friend. I will shun thee hereafter. as a thoughtless fool. So this makes them to become enemies. In the letter he writes, couldest thou, Euphus, for the love of a fruitless pleasure, violate the league of faithful friendship? He vows to revenge. He vows to revenge. Euphus also now writes a letter in response to Philotas' letter. His argument is that love knows no laws. All is fair in war and love. That love knows no law, not even the law of friendship. That love has a law of its own and that defies the law of friendship. And is ready to face Philotas man to man. He says that a man can do anything in order to get a woman. Did not Jupiter transform himself into the shape of Amphitryon to embrace Alcmene? Says, as Lucilla was caught by fraud, so shall she be kept by force. As thou wast too simple to expel my craft, so I think thou wilt be too weak to withstand my courage. This is what he says to Philotas. So, after some time, because the Emperor is angry, so Euphus cannot go back to the house to check on Lucilla. And of course, Philotas doesn't want to have anything to do with women again because they are not to be trusted. So he has not also gone back. So that leaves a vacuum. And this vacuum is filled by another young person in the life of Lucilla. And his name is Curio. Curio. C-U-R-I-O. Curio. C-U-R-I-O. Curio. So in the absence of Philotas and Euphus, Curio, a gentleman of Naples, is able to win Lucilla's love when the father is absent from the house. And Curio is worse than Euphus and Philotas because Curio has neither intelligence nor wealth. Curio is with little wealth and little wit. But this is the person that Lucilla wants to marry, finally. When Euphus finally returns to see Lucilla after a long time, he finds that she no longer loves him. So he now accepts that Lucilla is fickle, like every other woman. In fact, Lucilla wants him not to court her again. So he calls her the most inconstant that ever was nursed in Naples. And then he decides to leave Naples finally. Says, farewell Naples, the most cursed town in Italy. Farewell Naples, the most cursed town in all Italy. Okay? And of course, Euphus has his regrets. Oh, the counterfeit of love of women. As a love of woman is not constant and cannot be trusted. So you also have the theme of regrets as he returns to Athens, as Euphus returns to Athens with lessons. He will now pay more attention to his books, to his learning, because love has failed. We now turn attention to his learning, his reading, his scholarship. Okay? So Don Ferrado returns to the house to learn of Lucilla's love for Curio. He tries to talk sense to his daughter without success. He says, "Shall Curio enjoy the fruit of my travels, possess the benefits of my labors, inherit the patrimony of my ancestors, who had neither wisdom to increase them nor wit to keep them?" Because Ferrado knows that he will just waste the wealth, but he has no wisdom, has no wealth. So he has no wisdom to increase the wealth and so on. So Don Ferrado weeps, but it does not appear as if Lucilla is ready to listen to him. So Don Ferrado dies out of sadness. It breaks his heart and he dies. He dies out of heartbreak and depression. He leaves his wealth for his daughter and Curio to inherit. Euphues and Lucilla soon renew their friendship. After learning of Euphues and Philautus soon renew their friendship. After learning of how Lucilla had done what she had done to both of them. And they now unite to hate Lucilla. They now think that it was never their fault in the first place. That everything was caused by Lucilla. So they depart as friends who recognize their differences. One is given to studies. Who is that? Euphues. And the other is given to courtly life as Philautus. Okay, so that's where the story ends. When we meet again, we'll consider some of the tropes in the story, and then we move on to the next prose, which is The Unfortunate Traveler.